Long days and pleasant nights. Damn. Hey gang, it's been a long time since I've read a new Stephen King book. I think the last new book from the King I've read was Dr. Sleep. I haven't read The Institute or Billy Summers or If It Bleeds or anything in the last, what is that, 9 years? So this was quite a refreshing journey for me to take. And I knew it had to be a special book that would get me to go take another journey with Stephen King. And Fairy Tale was that opportunity. When I read the premise of the book, I thought, damn, this is King at his best. When he cranks up and fires up that imagination and he goes to a whole new world, it is some of the best reading you're going to have. So did it live up to that expectation? Stay tuned to find out. I don't know what I edited in there, but I bet you it was very entertaining and cool. That's for future Jeff to decide. But right now I'm going to open up a beer, a Rapture Brewing. Bam! Because this is what we do. We sit and we sit and we chat about books and reading, and you need to wet your whistle. So with Fairy Tale, the premise of this book was incredible. If you read the dust jacket flap, so I'm not spoiling. This is a spoiler-free book review, by the way. I'm sure that's in the title. But, let me reiterate. I'm not going to spoil anything here. The premise of the book is this boy befriends an old man and his dog. And the old man is sitting on a secret. There's a shed in his backyard. And what's in the shed? What's in that shed? And look, it's a fairy tale. And here we have, feels like Eye of the Dragon. So it feels like, man, crazy. It's crazy. What's crazy? Stephen King and his shed? What's he got in there? So I jumped into the book, eager, dying to find out, pumped for it. And the first third of the book, up to where that page marker is build-up, is Stephen King painting the picture. It's the boy befriending the old man and the dog. And he takes a third of the book to do it. And it's important. You want to believe in the character's journey. You want to believe what this character's made up of. Imagine what he'll do in certain situations. But it takes some time. This is a thick book. There's a lot of words in this book. But the story is a lot smaller than I thought it would be. Don't get me wrong. Things happen from page to page, right? I mean, there's a story there, and it takes its time. And I think King takes his time because he's King. But not a lot happens. If you look back and you think over the plot points and you think of... this is obviously after you read it. Review what happened in the book and think about those major moments. And wow, it feels like there were a lot of words for a story kind of spare. And I think if you read Drawing of the Three and then read Fairy Tale, you would see just how different word counts can feel. Drawing of the Three feels packed. There's an epic journey in the Dark Tower books. But in Drawing of the Three in particular, so much is going on. And it's big, it's expansive, it's huge. This book, not so much. It's smaller. And you realize, like, King's not expanding and filling those pages and creating a universe that encompasses everything, right? It's still a good story, and I still have respect for how brilliant a storyteller Stephen King is. His attention to detail is incredible. You could feel the thought that went into each section. He considered every every contingency. And his use of foreshadowing is really clever. And this is something I've always liked about King. When you get to a certain part in a Stephen King story, he'll foreshadow future action that's right around the corner, but he'll do it in a way where you're like, how the hell is that going to happen? Because he's already had it figured out. So for the reader experiencing it firsthand, it seems like, wow, he's playing 5D chess. But in reality, it's just a really thoughtful plot, a really well-created story. So I've always loved the way he did that. Gets you hooked. You're begging for more there. But I think overall, the writing feels slower. It feels like the lights are dim in that imagination. And I'm not saying it just based on his age. That has nothing to do with it. Just feels like he's not pushing at the full power here. And there's stuff he just didn't want to take on. The big expansive imagination. It's like a butterfly, a monarch butterfly that's lost all its colors. It still flies. It's still the same animal. You recognize its beauty in flight, but it doesn't inspire the same wonder that it used to. The wow, that is stunning. And I think that's just the case of somebody with such a long career who's written so many books. How many more depths are there to plumb? That said, King still writes a hell of a lot better than a lot of storytellers out there. I cared. I wanted to go further in the book. I really wanted to dig in. I was hooked. It was a quick read. It did lag a little bit in the middle. So, like I said, the first third was about the boy and the old man and the dog. Then the second third is what's in the shed and a lot of discovery and what goes on there. And that part sort of lulls. Like, I think you're revved up and you're thinking, wow, there's a whole other world. There's this whole other universe. There's this whole other thing to explore. And you get like suburbs worth of that world. You feel like you only get a little slice of it. A really focused, curated section. You don't feel like you can wander the world and see all there is. But you get a lot of history of the place. You get a lot of lore, and you care about the characters, and it's a satisfying story. Beginning, middle, and end, it all ties together really nicely, and you like it. At the end of it, you like it. You have to. It's great reading and a fun time, and I think Stephen King's like pizza. You can't have bad pizza. There's great pizza, and then there's okay pizza. But you're not going to say no to pizza. You're not going to say no to Stephen King. There's brilliant, mind-blowing Stephen King. Upon a reread of The Shining, I was struck with how brilliant that book is, as well as gripping and scary and all the things that made King a household name. But then there's okay King. There's King. You're not going to kick it out of your library. You're going to be like, there's only one King book I DNF'd. And that's the exception. That's not the rule. So this is a good King book. I would give it 3.5 stars, and I would round up to 4. Okay, if I had to do it, if I had to leave a review in a place, those draconian review places that don't allow half stars, I would give it 4 stars. I think it's a fun read, a good read. I'm glad it exists. But that said, King compared to King, this isn't his best work. Oh, yeah, and there's a huge plot hole in this. If you want to know what I'm getting at before I forget what the plot hole is, because that's funny. I'll watch this review maybe a year or two later, and I'll be like, what was the plot hole again? Jill will say, shut up and take your pills. So hit me up, Jeff at thejeffword.fun if you want to know what the plot hole is. But it's pretty big, and it kind of bothered me. But I forgave it, because I don't think King cared. He's just like, we're going with the story, man. This is the story. Here's the story. Take it or leave it. You know? I'm goddamn King. Push Puts his cigar out in your eyelid. Yeah, I'm king, man. Who are you? Plot hole. I wipe my ass with plot holes. And then there's a touch of M. Night Shyamalan. Again, it's a spoiler. I'm not going to tell you what it is unless you've read the book. This is why I'd like to have a book club so I could talk freely about the book. But there's a touch of M. Night Shyamalan. And when I got to that part, I'm like, oh, really? Really? Ah! A thing I did love about the book that really didn't have much to do with Stephen King, I don't think, is the art. I like it when books have art in them. This art is cool. Every chapter has art. He hasn't done that since Eyes of the Dragon. And that helps with the fairy tale theme. Yeah, that's the theme, right? It's fairy tales. There's a little bit of Star Wars in here, a little bit of M. Night Shyamalan, a little bit of Grimm brothers, the Grimm fairy tales. I think they were brothers. I don't know if they were related. I didn't look at their birth certificates. I did take some of this book a little personally, right? Because he started the book a week before I got fired from my job. November 25th, 2020, he started the book. And it's about a kid who lives in Illinois. And then the book comes out after I leave Illinois. And then there's a character near the end named Jeff. Now, he's a minor character, but he does some things that screws some things up. And he's a jerk. And I took that personal. I totally think Stephen King, I think he named that character after me. I think Richard Chismar said, hey, this guy keeps giving me grief on his channel, and I want you to deal with this guy in one of your books. I think this is my only warning. I think King named that character after me as a warning. There's a little too many coincidences that tie back directly to the Jeff word here that I don't like one bit. That Jeff character's a jerk. I mean, most Jeffs are jerks. I mean, what's a 4-letter word that starts with J-E and it means asshole? Jeff. Or jerk. You see what I'm saying there. It's a 4-letter word. So, anyway, that was kind of fun. That was a fun little thing. I'm like, all right, I see what you did there, King. I see what you did. You're coming for me? Fine. It's fine. I don't mind. I could use all the attention this channel can get. So feel free to out me on Twitter. Tweet at me, bro. And I will say, somebody made a joke early on. They said fairy tale is like Brian Sanderson and Dean Koontz ghost wrote a Stephen King book because it has fantasy and it has a dog. Dean Koontz loves his dogs, and so does Stephen King apparently. A boy and his dog and an old man. It's quite a trope. You know what I'm saying? You feel me. And as far as the fantasy in this book goes, it's low to no fantasy. I mean, it's fantastical, but I wouldn't call this a fantasy. I don't think I'd call it a horror either. It's just classic storytelling. It's lore, maybe lore. But like I said, it took me a little bit to get through that middle part. It's never a case where you're like dreading going back to the story, but you're like, no, yeah, I'm shooting craps at the casino. I don't really want to read right now. It's a kind of thing. But then you're like, oh, okay, I went broke, so I might as well read now. So you go back to the book. But the middle part was kind of lull. There's kind of a lull. But it paid off. Glad I read it. And I think I picked a good one to reconnect with King. The next King book I'm going to read, I'm going to jump right from this. I'm going to read an old school King book called Cujo. Because this book got me wanting to reconnect to that initial storytelling power. It's not a great equivalency. Like, I should start a journey up the tower again with Little Sisters of Illyria and then Dark Tower 1 and on. I should do that if I really want to get Stephen King full throttle epic fantasy saga Quartet. Boom! That's the dynamite. But I just don't got the time. I got some Fracassi coming out. I got some Jason Pargin coming out. You know, Chad Lutsky to read. I got a lot to do. So I'm going to read Cujo. Because I think that's one book I read once when I was like maybe 17. And I haven't gone back to it in all these years. So that's sort of the freshest classic read I could expect. Because all the other ones I've read multiple times. So anyway, that's my review for Fairy Tale. I liked it. I recommend it. 3.5 stars. 4 if you're on Goodreads and following me. So enjoy the journeys, man. And, stay frosty.